Hello and sunny Bonani. It is 7:32 Central African Time. It's a Thursday night, which could only mean one thing. Another installment of top-tier Breakaway Racing League action. Today we are in Suzuka out here in Japan. It's a beautiful day, a couple of clouds in the skies, but nothing too ominous. And we will have our first of three qualifying sessions. If you're brand new to Formula One, brand new to this sport, well, the qualifying format is such that you have to put in the fastest possible time in each of the qualifying sessions, and that will then rank the drivers on the timing tower that you can see on your left, and whoever goes quickest, of course, then secures their spot through to Q2, and only 15 drivers can take part in Q2. So as it stands, it seems as if no one will be getting knocked out if they just keep it together and keep their laps intact. Yeah, they'll go through to Q2 and similar thing, try to go fastest once again, and that will determine the progression through to Q3. And then we have the top 10 shootout, which determines who will start in which position. So wherever a driver finishes, or whatever time they set, then that would be their indication of where they would finish. And as we watch Tapiso on his outlap, he has a little bit of a moment coming out of that corner, and he has a little bit of a spin there. So yeah, definitely a lot for Tapiso to think about. But of course, a couple of storylines as this season has gone on along. It's been a beautiful, dominant season for Team Mercedes. That includes the champion Seakley, the three-time champion, I might add, who tops the championship standings, and his brand new teammate, Smertz Django. But with the breakaway drivers market having been shaken up throughout the season, one of the newer drivers to the breakaway stable, that being Don Radico, has found himself promoted twice in the space of a single season. And he is currently right here in the top tier out here in Japan. He's currently in the pit lane for Team Ferrari, of course, so we will see how he fares. He's been a very pacey driver, but right now, let's hop on board with Tapiso as he attempts to tackle this also challenging circuit out here in Japan. Turns 1 and 2 without too much issue for Tapiso. There's a yellow flag somewhere in Sector 3, but he'll pay no mind to that. He'll just look to come through these S's unscathed, but he touches the curb, and unfortunately for Tapiso, it is another spin. So he's just going to have to watch himself and give it another go all the way from scratch. Now, as Tapiso gives it another go, it seems that Enebo is already out here giving his first push on his attempt to put in a hot lap. Seakley has already begun his hot lap attempt on medium compound tires, so we'll see what he can do, what kind of times he will be able to do. Here comes Enebo now navigating the S section. He comes through unscathed, where Tapiso came unstuck. Enebo for Team Alpine wants to put in another decent showing to be able to finish in the points and keep on racking them up. He's dead in the corners. He's unscathed there. Now making his way towards the hairpin, one of the slowest corners on this here track. And it can be an overtaking opportunity once the actual race begins, so do watch that corner carefully. Here comes Enebo now navigating the end of Sector 2. Looking to start the third and final sector. We'll get a sense of how that looks after he navigates the spoon curve, which he does without incident. Back on board with the Alpine man, who completes his Sector 2 with a split of a 1:15.383. Watch out for the time that Seakley sets. He should be crossing the line now. It's a 1:31.721 for the champion. Here comes Enebo on the verge of completing his attempt as well. The Alpine driver will cross the line with a 32.863, and it looks like, is that a Williams on the verge? No, it's Williams on outlap. So instead, we will catch up with Enebo's teammate, who's also on the verge of completing his hot lap attempt. Tapiso, as you would recall, needs to give it another go. It's a 31.774 for Zotal. So marginally slower than Sichle, who, it must be noted, completed his hot lap on those medium compound tires. There is a Red Bull on the verge of crossing the line, but it looks like Tabo T92 is actually on an out lap, so he's only just beginning his proper push lap. So, who is next, I wonder? It is one of the McLarens, and Buda is going to cross the start-finish line to set a P4, 133.789 for the Alpha Tauri driver. His teammate, Ngawako, a.k.a. D-Wax, is already out on track, giving it a proper push. But let's catch up now with Mex, who's also on the verge of crossing the line. Madla has not yet put in a representative time. We'll see how he fares. Mex lights up the time sheet and goes top of the pops in Q1, 31.582, the quickest time we have seen thus far. Tepiso, on his go-around attempt, is giving it a proper push. One more time for the Haas driver across the line with just under 12 minutes of the session to go. He goes P4, 32.398 is his effort. And yeah, it looks like Seaplay has made his way safely back to the pits. So now we will catch up with Ngawako, aka D-Wax, who has just finished Sector 2 and is now making his way towards the line. Tabo T92, Ban Kobe, Don Radico. Of course, they are the people that still need to set their initial times. Here comes Ngawako across the line. 32.4 is good enough for P5 as things stand. Now the Red Bull of Tabo T92 is on the brink, on the verge of crossing the line to set his time. He goes P2, 31.657 on soft compound tires is really nothing to frown at. The King Rapture, Maripeng, who had a beautiful podium finish last time out. What can he do now? He will be across the line on, yeah, it's not representative at all. He's in the 2 minutes as things stand. Now, let's see how the debutant will fare. Will he go hard initially? Will he show us what he's made of and go absolutely all out from the beginning? He takes turns 1 and 2. Beautifully. Let's watch the line that he takes. He's not afraid to drive on the limit. He does touch those curves, but he's careful not to come unstuck. Buda gets disqualified for blocking the pit lane. May have had some issues there, but that's a nightmare scenario for Buda, who will take no further part in this session. Disqualified. Don Rabico through the Degna curves is looking absolutely solid. Look at his lines that he takes into the corners. Here comes the slower hairpin, and once again nails that apex and looks to carry as much exit speed as possible down the hill towards Spoon Curve. It is Don Rabico. There's a slow-moving car ahead of him. Is that King Rapture, I wonder? Well, Don Rabico will hope not to get blocked too much. He is still absolutely pushing it and sending it down towards that famous 130R left-hander. How will he fare? Sector 2 split is in the 113s. We are looking at a scorcher of a Q1 attempt. It may yet be a time to nudge even Mex off that top spot. It is looking tasty. Don Rabico on debut across the line. It's a 30.326. As an initial banker lap in his debut race in the top tier, Don Rabico, welcome to Q1, welcome to Tier 1, welcome to the top spot in this first qualifying session. Still a lot of qualifying to go. Kaboza crosses the line now for a 32.623, puts him P8 as things stand, and he's another one who is opting to start this session on medium compound tires, so saving as much of those softs as he possibly can for the later sessions. Buda getting disqualified will be good news, of course, for the grid. All they need to do now is just bring it home without crashing the car out. Josh, aka Damnesia, what can he do now on his initial attempt? Heavy on the curve there, touches the grass a little bit, turns 1 and 2. He escapes unscathed despite that. A couple of yellow flags that he will pay no mind to. He's just focusing on this S section. And let's see now how he fares. Grimjaw in the comment section. It is good to see you here. Speaking possibly about Don Rabico, he's raced with him in the European League. And, well, he's a sensational talent, and he's lighting things up out here in this Breakaway Racing League, consisting primarily of South African drivers. Josh, aka Damnesia, now making his way through Sector 2. And he approaches the hairpin. How will he fare? I wonder. Down all the way to Gear 2 is the answer. Josh, aka Damnesia, sends the Alfa Romeo screaming down the hill towards the spoon curve. I do wonder how he will carry it. And he came unscathed, of course, after going so heavy on the curb through those initial couple of corners. A little wide on coming through Spoon, but he's managed to keep it together. And this could get a fairly decent Banco lap. 14.924 is his split at the end of Sector 2. He's almost a full second behind the Sector 2 split that Don Ravico put on. And what the heck is going on? Did Don retired his car? Did Don crash out on his in-lap? Or did he retire in the pits, I wonder? I hope it's the latter. Yeah, I hope he retired in the pits, because anything else would be catastrophic. Josh, meanwhile, crossed the line. 32.066 is good enough for P8 as things currently stand. Someone who is also on a push lap is none other than Ban Kobe for Team Aston Martin. Let's see how he fares. Now the initial sequence of corners, it's not too bad from Ban Kobe. Making his way now through the hairpin. Unscathed is the Aston Martin driver, who's definitely struggled for form this season, has Ban Kobe. The points have been very, very difficult to come by. But Japan is a place and a track that he definitely does enjoy, and here he comes now, past the slow-moving King Rapture, who's just making way for Ban Kobe. Down towards the casino chicane, the final chicane of this track. How will he fare? It's Ban Kobe towards the line for Aston Martin. 32.4 P10 as things currently stand. We've had one DSQ, and the likes of Donathan Laka, Don Rabico's teammate, are currently out on track, giving it a proper push, a proper go. Let's go, bro. Grimjaw cheering on Don Rabico. Charlie 3 Stacks says we have Rabbies in the breakaway now. Yeah, he is here to make his presence felt, is Don Rabico. We're watching his teammate, Donathan Laka. 2 Dons for the Tifosi. Here he comes across the line. P2, 30.775, becomes one of only 3 drivers to set a time in the 130s. But of course, Don Rabico, the gold standard thus far. Looking absolutely comfortable in the top tier of Breakaway Racing League. King Rapture, we saw him moving slowly just to make way for Ban Kobe a little bit earlier, and now he's still on those mediums. One of a few drivers who have opted to save their softs for Q2 and beyond. It's a fresh set of mediums this time, which is well, quite interesting considering he had already been out. So let's see what the King Rapture can do. He's not looking very comfortable, or he's not pushing as hard as he possibly can. That Sector 2 split was in the 1 minute 19s, so not quite the very best from Maripeng, aka the King Rapture. His Royal Highness, the King Rapture, I would add, is across the line, 37.3, definitely among the slower efforts thus far. Tato, aka Loveness, is the next. Is going to be one of the last drivers to set his representative lap. Sector 2, ooh, a little bit iffy there. Through that first part of Spoon Curve, goes wide on the exit. I do wonder how much that will compromise him. Only 15 will take part in Q2, meaning that essentially one driver will be getting knocked out. His Sector 2 split was in the 1 minute 15s. So as things stand, he'll be hoping to challenge the likes of maybe Zotao or Tabo Team 92 to nudge them off those positions, depending on how his rush towards the line goes. Ooh, it's nowhere near. 32.9. Only good enough for P15 as things stand. Man, oh man, oh man. Tabang says finally Rabico is where he belongs. Let's go. A lot of interest, of course, in Don Rabico on his debut in Tier 1 of Breakaway League Racing. As mentioned earlier, there's been a shake-up in the breakaway drivers market, if you will. A couple of the drivers no longer able to take part, and Don Rabico, who was tearing it up in the second tier, is here to perhaps do exactly that in Tier 1. He's going to be one that we're watching very, very closely, of course, to see how he fares. Yeah, it looks like King Rapture has definitely just been pushing for the sake of just getting comfortable with this circuit. Now, Seekley, the three-time champion, has fitted a fresh set of soft compound tires. His initial time that he did out here was on mediums. Here he comes now towards turns 1 and 2. Turn 1 fairly flat out. Turn 2 just rushes at you so quickly. But Seekley is on the limit, touches the curves a little bit into the S section. Down towards gear 5. Is just also careful on the throttle there, trying to carry as much speed as he possibly can. Only 1 minute 45 seconds of this Q1 session to go. It is Seekley down towards the Degna curves, and that car's just going to have to make way. Is it the slow-moving King Rapture? It may yet could be. Who does exactly that? Moves out of the way for Seekley to be able to come straight into the hairpin. He takes it all the way down to gear 3. Clean exit, and will rush down the hill towards the spoon curve. Charlie 3 Stacks in the comment section says, man, Don in Tier 1 with mechs. The Tier 3 boys are still repping. Absolutely. Here comes the champion through the spoon corner. Spoon curve, rather. Down towards 130R. Flats out. He's going 6/10 quicker as things stand. Seekley just wants to show who he is as a champion. Loveness seemingly has crashed out. Or is he retired in the pits? Just trying to get a sense of that. Loveness has crashed out. Seekley on top of the pops. 130.255 is, by some margin, the quickest time that we've seen today. Definitely almost a full 10th quicker than Don Rabico with 30 seconds to go. That was Seekley. Well, letting it be known that he will not relinquish his crown without a fight. And no matter who you throw at him, what you throw at him, he is still the champion for a darn good reason. Sensational Q1 effort to conclude proceedings out here. And Tabo T92 may yet be on a final push lap. It looks like Tabo T92 and Nebo are going to be the last drivers to be out here running on the track. Oh, has a little bit of a twitch there. There's Tabo, but manages to keep it clean. Leave Seekley alone, says Charlie 3 Staffs, aka Charlie 3000. From the clock, yes, it is Shupile. Tabang says Ziyakala tonight. Absolutely. Seekley. Dom Radico. Smirch Django. Don't forget him. He's been tearing it up. And this man, Tabo T92, who loves tearing it up in quali. We've seen him put in some absolute scorchers in seasons past. So don't discount him at all. But it looks like on this attempt, by the end of Sector 2, he's gone slower by almost 7/100ths of a second. So it's going to have to be an inch-perfect Sector 3 if Tabo T92 is to improve. But he opts to come straight back into the pits. And at the end of Q2, with Loveness seemingly having crashed out towards the end and Esbuda being disqualified, Seekley goes quickest. Don Rabico, second quickest from Donovan Laka. Django, P4. Mex, P5. This man, Tabo T92, went 6th quickest. Zotal went 7th quickest in Q1. And Gawako, a.k.a. D-Wax, is the highest of the AlphaTauri drivers. P8 for him. Josh, a.k.a. Damnesia, P9. Tipiso, 10th. King Rapture, 11th. And Nebo, 12th. Romeo, 13th. And then we have Bankobi and Kaboza rounding things off. As you can see, the King Rapture, despite running those mediums, managed to put it in P11. So, fair degree of sandbagging out here and a degree of comfort, knowing that, of course, we didn't have a completely full grid here. And that, folks, is the lineup going into Q2. Seekley used 2 sets of tires, medium to soft. The King Rapture, interestingly, the inverse, soft to medium. Two sets of tires for Inebu and Mandla, a.k.a. Romeo each. Kobe just the one. And Kaboza using two, as did Loveness, who sadly retired out of the session. And Esbuda, of course, was blocking the pit lane. That is how he was disqualified. Less than 20 seconds to go before we go through to Q2. If you've just joined us, welcome to the top tier Breakaway League Racing. It's a very, very, very interesting set of circumstances out here in Suzuka, Japan. It's a beautiful day. A couple bits of cloud cover, but hopefully a dry race coming up. Q2 up next. Checking in with the comment section once again, Wendell Chesney says, do not nap on the champion. Speaking about that scorching effort that Seathley just put in, Charlie 3 Stacks. Charlie 3000 says Seathley is a joke. What the heck was that lap? Well, Seathley will take some time out of the of the cockpit to say, hey, it's close, guys. He's expecting a closer scrap between Q2 and Q3. Seathley can always pull another level of Super Saiyan like Goku. Well, is it going to be Super Saiyan 2, Super Saiyan 3 to go with each of the quali sessions? I, for one, cannot wait. 5 drivers are getting knocked out of Q2 as we look forward with bated breath towards the top 10 shootout and the battle for pole position. Welcome to Suzuka, Japan. One of the most iconic Formula One circuits, where we've seen some classic battles in the real world, of course, between Alain Prost and Ayrton Senna. And last year, this track was the scene of a dramatic race in which Max Verstappen's championship, his second championship, was confirmed. And we saw, of course, some dramatic circumstances as far as the weather was concerned as well. So much to look forward to, so much to salivate about. Josh, aka Damnesia, wasting no time, one of the first to get out on track, as is the McLaren duo of Kaboza and Mex. Now, both McLarens last time out opted to start on hard compound tires. They went long, and their gamble could have really paid off were it not for a slew of safety cars and, as far as this man, Kaboza, is concerned, time penalties as well. So, yeah, they've been doing really, really well, have the pair of McLaren drivers. Sadly for this man, Kaboza, finishing 11th last time out in Singapore. But he does have a season's best performance of P2, which he managed in Austria a couple of races ago. So he's definitely one to be paying close attention to. Now, the debutant, Don Rabico, of course, has his work cut out for him, since he needs to pretty much play catch-up as far as the championship standings are concerned. He did join mid-season, so he's got his work cut out for him, but he had no such issues making the leap up to Tier 2. Even though he had started later, had Don Rabico, he still managed to finish top of the pops as far as those points were concerned. Back on board now with the McLaren driver, Kaboza, who will be the first to set a representative lap in Q2. Let's see what it looks like, what it feels like from the perspective of the papaya orange McLaren. Into the section, 5th gear is the lowest that Kaboza is keeping it, trying to be circumspect on the throttle. And we'll get a sense of how his Sector 1 fares. 33.183. Bear that in mind as we watch the onboards from here on out. Towards the hairpin comes the McLaren driver. Oh, a little bit of a twitch on the exit. But he's still kept it together. He didn't invalidate. He rushes all the way down the hill towards that also famous spoon curve. Clean exit out of spoon towards 130R, flat out for Kaboza. 113.969, his Sector 2 split. So, no more sandbagging for Caboza. Casino chicane. Casio chicane, I beg your pardon. Towards the line for Team McLaren, it's a 31.065 as that initial attempt. Zotal, will he be next in line to set that banker lap? Mandla set a 31.8 provisional P2 as things currently stand, pipped by this man, Zotal. 31.757 puts him P2. Mex is next across the line. He goes P4. And it looks like Seakley once again lit up the timing tower with a 30.786. And Don Radical, who we did watch earlier in Q1, crosses the line this time with a 31.111. Ooh, how much more does the Don Radical have in the bag towards the end of this session and indeed Q3? I look forward to all of that between now and the end of this session. Looks like there was a slow-moving Aston Martin. It might have been Bankobi running into trouble on his push attempt. And Nebo has crashed out. And Nebo loses it. It looks like in Sector 1 at the exit of the S's. And Nebo is out of this session. Estelo reckons that Capoza will make it into the 1 minute 30s. Well, we shall wait and see. Let's hop on board now with the would-be challenger to the Tier 1 throne. Django across the line, 30.328. A beautiful lap by the Mercedes driver, showing exactly what he is made of in the top tier. It's a Mercedes 1-2 in Q2. Oh man, beautiful, beautiful laps as things currently stand. And yeah, Bankobi, who did come unstuck earlier on, is not exactly giving it a proper push. King Rapture, that is definitely not a representative lap, but this would definitely be exactly that. So let's stay on board with the Williams driver. Ooh, heavy on the curve into turn 1. Compromised his progress into number 2. It's the F sections now. Can he recover that tiny mistake? Oh, huge twitch. Had to lift off the throttle completely there, but he's still pushing. Is Maripeng, a.k.a. His Royal Highness King Rapture, definitely compromised the rest of his first sector. And as you'll see, his split there will only be a 33.440, so definitely got his work cut out. Tepiso has gone P10 as things currently stand. Tabo T92 and Donathon Laka still on their outlaps. So we're still going to get a sense of how they will fare between now and the end of this session. Remember, only 10 go through to Q3 and that battle for pole position. Here comes the King Rapture on the limit. Almost breaching track limits there, coming out of Spoon Curve and invalidating, but he is absolutely trying to recover all that time that he lost in Sector 1, giving it a proper push attempt as he now hurdles towards the Casio triangle, the Casio chicane. On the limit, almost touching the grass. On that exit on the final corner, will cross the line, 31.283. A significant improvement. It's a P5 for the Williams driver, looking very, very comfortable as things currently stand. Inkawako, a.k.a. D-Wax, this is definitely an in-lap because he's moving slower as things currently stand. Josh is coming back to the pits. Tabo T92 is absolutely sending it, as he now navigates his way past or through the hairpin. Beautiful overhead helicopter shot that he had there. He now comes rushing down the hill towards Spoon Curve, which is turns 13 and 14 respectively. He will then look to get a clean exit down towards 130R, or turn 15 if you want to be technical. And he's got 7 minutes, has Tabo T92, along with everybody else, to stake his claim in a place in the top 10 shootout. Wide entry, or rather wide line, to nail the entry into the Casio chicane. And now punches it towards the line. P2, 30.436 is a beautiful attempt by the Red Bull driver who splits Django and the champion Seakley. Beautiful, beautiful effort by Tabo T92. Donathon Laka had also crossed the line before Tabo. 31.3 is good enough for P7. he probably won't feel that it is good enough to keep him safe to go through to Q3 as things currently stand. So Don definitely has his work cut out for him. Now, Mex is going to be next across the line. Let's see how the McLaren driver fares. That 32.7, not good enough, but what will he do now? No, he's only just beginning his attempt, is Mex. So let's see how he will fare. Turns 1 and 2, rides the curve out of 2, and now gears up for the S section. His teammate is all the way up in P4, so Mex definitely under pressure here to make it a full representation of Team McLaren in Q3. He's fighting against the Piso, Bankobi, Damnesia, possibly even Romeo, Zotal, and Ewax to make it through to Q3. Ooh, carried so much speed there through the first part of the technical curve. But he's keeping it together towards the hairpin, which is turn 11. A little bit slow on the exit there, but as long as it's clean, as long as it's not an invalidation, I suppose Mex will count that as a win. Into 13. On the limit, gear 5 out of Spoon. And he is absolutely on the limit. Racks up a top speed of about 310 kilometers per hour before slowing down into the final chicane. Mex on one of the final opportunities that he has to stake his claim on a place in Q3. Mex will cross the line. 31.222 is 1.5 seconds quicker than his previous best time, and it's P6. So as things stand, provisionally, he gets knocked down to P7. Would you look at that? So Django, quickest through Q2 from Tabo T92, and the other Mercedes of Seatley currently P3. Towards the end of proceedings here, things are getting very, very tricky and, quite tense, I would have you know. Let's see now how Bad Kobe is faring. It doesn't look like... No, it does not look like a proper push attempt by Bad Kobe here. It doesn't look like he's going to be challenging these drivers, so he's going to be giving it another go very, very soon. What about Mandla? Is he still going? Looks like another outlap. He's weaving to the left and right, trying to get some temperature into those tires. Someone who may yet be given it a proper push is Zotal, whose 130.883 is a beautiful attempt by the Alpine driver. Sees him, as things currently stand, in P4. Goes down to gear 5. Yep. That red fuel light is flashing. I think we may yet be watching an in-lap as far as Zotal is concerned. So let's hop on down to none other than... Nope, he's also on the verge of beginning. I just want to catch someone who's mid-lap. It is Josh, aka Damnesia, who has improved by more than a tenth at the end of Sector 1. So it's looking like a decent attempt by Josh, who's no slouch when it comes to qualifying, it must be said. But as things stand, only P13 under pressure to make it through to the third and final quali session. Exits Spoon, carrying so much speed into 130R. Hits a top speed of about 305 kilometers per hour. And here it comes down to the final chicane. Josh, aka Damnesia, has a bit of a snap into that chicane. How many tenths will that cost him? Is that the end of his prospects as far as his Q3 prospects are concerned? P11. He may not have enough time to stake his claim on a Q3 spot. Let's hop on board now with the would-be challenger to the throne. His Sector 1 split is 6 tenths quicker than his previous best time. Looking good, looking solid. For a time which could yet light up the timing tower once again. And behind him, Seatley, the 3-time champion, has also begun another attempt at a final push here towards the end of Q2. They've got less than 90 seconds to begin their final attempt. If they're going to do that, Man Ray says Josh was so close. I wonder if he's going to give it another push with Josh, considering, of course, that his battery power may yet be running out. Don Rabico, I would have you know, has improved by 1.1 seconds at the end of Sector 2, looking absolutely sensational. Into the final chicane he comes. Almost has a moment with the bottle there, but he keeps it absolutely clean, driving on the limit. Don Rabico across the line, sets a 29.871, the first driver to breach into the 1 minute 29s today, and it's none other than the man on debut, a red-hot lap from the man in the iconic red of Ferrari. Don Rabico looking absolutely beautiful, sensational, but what kind of an answer does the champion have? Well, provisionally, it's an improvement by about 3.5 tenths. Seekley versus Don Rabico to see who will go even quicker, who will light up the timing sheets, who will have the last lap by the time we get to the end of this qualifying session. It's the champion across the final chicane, where I know he has nightmares. According to the challenge he had with Zoltal, this time he crosses the line 30.050. It's a 7/10 improvement, but it's only good enough for P2 because as it stands, Don Rabico is the gold standard, the only person to breach that 1 minute 29 second barrier in the top tier thus far. Now, a couple of drivers still running. Ban Kobe on a final push attempt to stake his claim at a spot in Q3 here. Let's hop back on board with the Aston Martin driver. Mandla has crossed the line. P13 is the best that he could do. Tapiso is also out as things currently stand. And Gawako, aka D-Wax, I do wonder if he lost his car out on track or if he's going to be... Oh, D-Wax, it may be a self-imposed retirement by D-Wax there. I do hope he didn't crash out in case these drivers below him aren't able to improve. But Ban Kobe is on his last chance saloon here as far as a possible qualification through to Q3 is concerned. Now, Grimjaw in the comments says, see, I told you that this guy was going to light things up in your top tier, and Don Rabico has done exactly that. Ban Kobe towards the line. His Sector 2 split is about 9/100ths of a second slower. So as things stand, Ban Kobe not able to improve. He needs to be inch perfect in these final sequences of corners here if he's going to have any hope to stake his place on a place in Q3. Ban Kobe comes across the line with a moderate improvement, but it's not good enough. P12 means Ban Kobe is out of Q2. Ban Kobe, Mandla, Tapiso, and Nebo, the drivers that have been nudged out. And Ngawako, aka D-Wax, also nudged out. He was P10, he is P11. King Rapture, His Royal Highness King Rapture, makes it through by the slimmest of margins. Look at the time that King Rapture put in, as well as Mex. It is really just a couple of hundredths of a second, the difference between P9 and 10. And Don Rabico is the benchmark through Q2. C-Clay went second quickest, Django third, Tabo T92 went fourth quickest, Donathon Laka went fifth quickest into through Q2. Zotile, who it must be noted is a driver who enjoys himself around this track. P6 for him. Caboza, 7th quickest. Josh, aka Damnesia, P8. Mex, 9th. King Rapture, P10. So, Mercedes, Ferrari, McLaren are the constructors with a full contingent of drivers represented in Q3. 2 sets of tires for the top placing Don Rabico. The same for the champion C-Clay and Smirch Django. Just the single tire used for Tabo T92. Watch out for him in Q3. Donathon Laka used 2 sets of tires. And yeah, that was pretty much been the case for most of the field here. Offense says Q3. Tabang says, hey, it is tense. And Dr. Tabang, available tense. Yes, it's a very tense indeed. Charlie 3 Stack says the Mercedes boys have got a real challenge now. It's not going to be smooth sailing. Charlie 3 Stacks channeling Pep Guardiola says Ban Kobe's downfall. I will be there. Channeling, of course, the words of the iconic Pep Josep Guardiola Salah, the Manchester City coach. Fancy looking forward to Q3. I want to hear your predictions, folks. I want to hear P1, P2, P3. Who gets pole position and who gets to sit on the front row, as well as those initial places in the second row. Let me know. Don Rabico had no choice but to, give it an absolute full send in Q2. He could not afford to sandbag at all, considering he could have found himself slipping and sliding down the order. So I really want to hear your thoughts on how these guys will fare. Tabo T92, as we've mentioned, is no slouch. He really struggled, did Tabo T92 at the start of the season. He crashed out in Australia, and then, at his next race, he pretty much just showed his class, showed his quality to Tabo, and he managed to finish on the podium in Monza. P3 finish for him, and ever since then, it's been a P4 finish in Singapore. He missed the race in Australia and in France as well. So every time he takes part, he is absolutely one to pay the closest attention to. Tabo T92, one to watch very, very carefully. Well, we know all about Seafley and his quality as a champion, as a competitor, and we'll see exactly what he has in store for all of us now here. Someone who's on boards we haven't really watched too closely today is this man, Smirch Django, who ever since coming up and being promoted to the top tier has really been the gold standard. A string of finishes either in P1 or P2. His quote-unquote worst result thus far was P4 in Australia. So another one who is absolutely no slouch at all. It looks like Tabo T92 may have had an issue in Sector 1, went completely off the track, so the pressure already beginning to tell at the beginning stages of this third and final qualifying session. We're on board now with Seaclay, who moves past the slow-moving Tabo T92. We're going to watch what Seaclay's initial effort and initial offering and initial standard is for Q1. Ahead of Seaclay, I believe, is the McLaren of Caboza, 32.683. It's his Sector 1 split. This is your champion coming out of those Degna curves. That is turn 10 that he's just navigated. This is the hairpin of turn 11. Caboza already racing down the hill ahead of the champion, and here he comes now, looking to keep things absolutely inch perfect, knowing the kind of quality that he is battling all over this track. Into spoon curve comes Seaclay, tight entry, and looking to make sure that his line once again is inch perfect. He will be looking to get a beautiful Sector 2 split. Hits a top speed of about 313, has a 113 split through Sector 2. Oh, it's going to be a beautiful, beautiful initial banker lap here for Seaclay. Before things really heat up, Caboza sets a 130.862, his quickest time of the day. Here comes your champion, 129.622 for Seaclay is provisional pole. Of course, there's a lot of qualifying still to go. Zotal, P2, tucks ahead of Caboza. Tabo T92 was not, of course, moving at his absolute best. Mex has just crossed the line for P5. Smirch Django also into the 129s, but is behind his teammate by a couple of seconds. What about Don Ravico, who's on the verge of showing us what he has made of his Sector 1 split? Was in the 32 seconds, I believe, unless my eyesight failed me there. Fire emojis for the champion. Here comes Don Ravico's answer to the question that Seaclay asked. The question is, who is the top dog, so to speak, out here in Japan? And, well, Don Ravico's Sector 2 split is a 113.051. I am absolutely salivating to see what this man can do. His entry into that final chicane wasn't quite tight on the apex. These gents are something else. There's Bungani in the comments. Don Ravico can only do a 130.002. So, He's already set a time in the 1:29s, but his banker lap is not exactly on the level of the champion thus far, but still good enough to put him in a provisional P3 as things currently stand. A lot of qualifying still to navigate as Josh, aka Damnesia, is the next person. Oh! King Rapture has crashed out. King Rapture has lost his car, I believe, in Sector 2. In Sector 2, yeah, King Rapture is out. So King Rapture will start the race from P10 as things currently stand. We're now watching Josh, aka Damnesia, show his mettle and give us a sense of what he can do into the Degna curves, carrying so much speed into those sequences of corners. And now towards the hairpin, Charlie 3 Stack says Ciclay's S section needs work, losing too much time, while the likes of Liddy says, well, Ciclay is really something else. What a sensation is the champion. Oh man, 5.5 minutes of this qualifying session to go. If you've just joined us, it's very, very hard to predict at the top of the field, because Ciclay, Django, and Don Radical have been absolutely sensational. Ciclay is a huge competitor. 114.2 is Damnesia's Sector 2 split. So not quite challenging the guys at the very top, but still a solid effort and a solid attempt. Here he comes now towards the line, and he's going to cross. 31.453 is good enough for P8. Josh, aka Damnesia, turning up the heat. Well, we will have a fairly chunky grid because Teppo Temba, the Aston Martin driver, has just joined the lobby. So it's going to be a nice, fairly full grid once race proceedings get underway. And we're now watching Josh, aka Damnesia, just bring that car safely home before perhaps fitting on a fresh set of tires and giving it a final push. Mixed bag of results for Josh. He's had 3 DNFs this season. So, yeah, uncharacteristic, unforced errors from Josh, who's quite a pacey driver, all things considered, and he gives nothing away on track. We've seen him attempt audacious overtakes, and towards the end of races, he really does turn the wick up by some margin. Now, for the Tifosi, for the Scuderia, it is Don Radical's teammate, another Don. Donathan Laka, who has looked comfortable in the top tier of Breakaway League racing since gaining promotion. He's got less than 4 minutes to stake his claim on the top runners. Let's see what he is made of. His Sector 1 split, 32.982. Carrying a lot of speed down to Gear 4 on the exit of the Degna curves. He takes turn 10 without incident and will look to get his entry into the hairpin inch perfect. Touches the curve a little bit and will now look to get a clean exit and send it absolutely screaming down towards the spoon curve. Tier 1 is absolutely crazy, says Nadinho99 Games. Absolutely. It's been beautiful to watch. We can barely predict who will be sitting at the top of this grid, who will start in that pivotal pole position with 3 minutes of this session to go. His Sector 2 split is 113.5 seconds, so Donathan Laka looking very, very good. Crash says, I think Don Radical might get pole. I want to hear your predictions for P1, P2, P3. Let me know in the comment section. Here comes Don across the line, P4 provisionally. So it's a Ferrari P3 and 4 provisionally as things stand. Remember, we still need to see these last pushes, these last attempts by this field of drivers. 2.5 minutes of this session to go. It's a beautiful banker lap, all things considered, or a beautiful first attempt by Donathan Laka. He will definitely have his work cut out for him. That Mercedes versus Ferrari battle is a beautiful thing to watch, says Tapiso in the comments section. Now, a couple of drivers already on their out laps as things currently stand. Zotal is currently running behind this man, Tabo T92. Seaclay can go slightly faster than that. He got distracted in the first sector. Jonathan Laka is always improving, says Charlie 3 Stacks, Charlie 3000. Absolutely. All hail Django, says Peace in the comments section. Well, let's see what the likes of Tabo T92 can do in response to this Tier 1 field, which has become increasingly stacked with each and every race this season. Don't forget, we still have the likes of Mellow the Mellow in this tier, Fensei in this tier, Zotile, Damnesia, Don Radico. It is absolutely sensational. Let's go Smirch Django, says the Crash in the comment section. Tabo T92 is now tackling Sector 2 out here in Suzuka. He's into turn 10. Those slow-moving cars are going to need to make way. They do exactly that. It could get... Oh, and he sends it straight into the wall! He becomes one of the first drivers that we watch crashing out on his push lap. Jonathan Laka also seemingly crashing out. No, Don retired, but Tabo T92 absolutely losing his composure. And that means Zotal is going to be the first driver who sends it also on a almighty spin. So the pressure already too much to bear for two of these drivers in this final qualifying session. Man, oh man, who is going to get the initial run? Who's going to set the first time? Well, Max is nowhere near the benchmark. Composer, what can he do now across the line? 130.8 is only good enough for P7 as things currently stand. The Mercedes pair of Django and Seaclay, what can they do? Well, I think they're only on the verge of beginning their hot lap attempt, so we're going to see what they are made of. And ahead of Django, I must say, is the champion Seaclay. We're going to watch one of the McLarens has... lost it there from the perspective of Seaclay that we saw. So we're just going to watch Seaclay because he's going to be the first to set his time before we see the response of Django behind him. And, of course, Don Radical. The top three drivers as things currently stand are going to be the last to show us what they're made of. Capoza has lost his car, retiring from the session. Mex is out of the reckoning, as is Josh, aka Damnesia. It's a top three scrap here towards the end of proceedings. 29.6 was the best that Seaclay could do on his banker lap. Let's see whether or not it will be a definite improvement by the champion. Zotal spun out, and P6 is the best that he could manage up until this point. So, yeah, it is a dramatic end to proceedings here as the pressure ratcheted up so significantly. Seaclay gets a clean exit out of the spoon curve, and a couple of yellow flags. Behind Seaclay, he has improved by 4 tenths. Oh my gosh, his previous best is definitely going to be improving by some margin. So heavy into the curve in the final chicane there. I do wonder if that compromised him at all. A champion is coming across the line now. 29.270 is a definite improvement. What can Django do? 29.7 is a provisional P2. Will Ravico improve P2 for Don Ravico? Seaclay, the champion, will not go down without a fight. He will not be defeated in the top tier of Breakaway League Racing. Any talks of a potential changing of the guard were absolutely premature because Seaclay once again puts in a champion's drive out here in the Suzuka to claim the top spot and pole position before we go racing out here in Japan. Man, oh man, oh man. I have absolutely no words to describe what a sensational finish to proceedings that was. Seaclay, 29.269, is in pole position from the debutant Don Rabico, who sets a 29.444 to go P2. Smirts Django will start P3. Don Laka, P4. What a beautiful quality for him. Tabo T92, solid in P5, as is Zotal in P6. Caboza will start 7th ahead of his teammate, and Josh, aka Damnesia, making up that P9 spot from King Rapture, who rounds off the top 10. Inati asking, who is Don Rabico? Well, do I have news for you, Inati? He is the debutant who was on a singular mission to shake up the field and absolutely stake his claim as a potential headache and problem here. Just like the likes of Django and Donathan Laka, they have looked absolutely comfortable at in the top tier of Breakaway League Racing. Seafley says it was nearly a flat, nearly a 128 flat, I presume that is, 129 flat. He said he lost time at the last turn. Pete says they, Smirts and Don, might get a better start than Seafley, but then again, Seafley said he likes following in Japan. Grimjaw says respect to Seafley. Don, get him. This will be fun. Absolutely fun. Man Ray responding to Minati says you guys left the top tier and allowed new members to terrorize us. Oh man, Liam Naidu says, you know what? Don might just win this. Of course, he's not just a sensational over one lap is Don Rabico. His race pace is absolutely phenomenal as well. It's time for the formation lap as we will get a sense of what the tire strategies are. The champion weaving left and right, opting to go long initially, so that's interesting. An alternate strategy to the chasing pair of Don and Django. Seafley says he likes to follow around here. Well, as things stand, with those two drivers behind him on the mediums, he may yet find himself in a following position in the early stages of this lap. Don Rabico will absolutely send it at the start of this race here. Django, Seafley's teammate, another one who's been sensational to watch. Of course, Don Rabico's debut has taken the headlines, but Django is no slouch. We've seen what he can do, a string of finishes in the top two this season already. So he's definitely one to watch very, very carefully. Donathan Laka, P4. Hard tire start for him, matching the P1 running Seafley. Tabo T92 and Zotal also opting to start on those mediums. Oh, sensational race that we have in Prospect out here in Japan. Tabo T92 will look to keep his run of high points finishes. He'll look to keep that going. Kaboza and Mex, the McLaren pair, who have been looking solid. The pair of McLaren drivers are currently P2 in the Constructors' Championship, but right now finding themselves in the midfield. Josh, Damnesia, P9, King Raptor, P10. Ingawako, DUX, has also opted to start in those medium compound tires, as has Ban Kobe and Mandla in P12 and 13, respectively. Tapiso and Nebo and Loveness also in the mediums, and Espuda and Tepo Temba at the rear have opted to go long initially and start in those hard compound tires. Crash is not a fan of starting on the hards around here. Charlie 3000's Charlie 3 stats says Django and Seafley type race, but Rabi can cause an upset. Tier 1, you have to fight for your points, says Peace. Fensei is not present. Is there a top order midfield and back markers now, says Fensei? Perhaps. Yeah, with each and every season, the top tier of Breakaway League Racing keeps on getting more and more stacked, and the field really just, the field is really getting so difficult to manage as the races go on. Oh, there's an AlphaTauri which came completely unstuck. I wonder if that was Espuda or perhaps Ingawako, aka DWAX, who got... Yeah, it was Ingawako who got his positioning for the race start a little wrong. Well, we will get a beautiful potential race start here. Let us see. 4 lights becomes 5 lights, and this will be the only time South Africans look forward to the race start, to lights going on. Of course, Seafley has managed to hang on to the lead, or has he? Because here comes Don Rabico, who seems to be going for an immediate overtake into turn 1. The two Mercedes cars are side by side. Don Rabico has claimed the race lead going into the S section. Oh, almost contact between the two Mercedes drivers. Seafley has fallen down to P3. Don't mind the glitch as far as the timing tower is concerned, because it is Don Rabico in P1 and Django and Seafley in 2 and 3 respectively. Donathan Laka is following behind them very, very closely, and it looks to be a clean start thus far. Tapito has lost a couple of places. He's all the way at the back. Good play by Seafley, says Charlie 3 Stacks, as Seafley had mentioned earlier that he does like to be following at the start of races. So, the two Ferraris are pretty much sandwiching the Mercedes in P2 and 3 respectively. Pay no attention to that glitch as far as the position is concerned, because in level is not P1. It is, in fact, Don Rabico, and we're watching his teammate Donathan Lacka trying to keep the McLaren at bay. Capoza looking to get got a decent start. His teammate Mex dropping so many positions, and I do hope that this little position glitch gets rectified here. C-Clay, this is the champion, the viewpoint from the champion as they're about to complete lap 1. Don Rabico in the lead by just a couple of hundredths of a second. Django hunting him down. C-Clay not quite there yet. 36.8 is the time that Django sets across the line. And we have now begun the second lap. This is a glitch by the lobby saying that DRS has been enabled. That is very, very weird indeed. But right now we're watching, of course, from the vantage point of the champion C-Clay, who's hunting down his teammate and Don Rabico. Django is hungry, guys, says Mfundo. Absolutely. There's been so much noise, a lot of hype around the debutante of Don Rabico, but do not discount Django at the top of this field thus far. This is lap 2 and not 3, courtesy of that very weird glitch that we're getting. And yeah, it's now been corrected. Don Rabico in the lead by a factor of about 7/10 of a second. No, it's one and a half seconds already. So he gets a absolutely sensational run through that second sector. And Django now huffing and puffing, trying to stay in touch with the race leader. I do wonder if there'll be team orders for Team Mercedes if C-Clay does have the superior race pace, or if C-Clay will just look to overtake regardless of what Toto Wolff might be saying in that Mercedes garage as things currently stand in lap 2 of 27. Watching some of the battles taking place. Tabo T92, currently P6, hunting down King Rapture, who has absolutely stormed his way up this grid. Despite starting on those hard compound tires, King Rapture up to P5. Rabico sets a 33.957 as he has navigated his way to be about 1.3 seconds ahead of the race leader. Donathan Lacka is overtaken by the King Rapture, going into the S section. Beautiful overtake by King Rapture. His Royal Highness once again showing his class. King Rapture, aka Maripeng, who had a beautiful podium finish last time out, looking very, very comfortable as he has his sights set on the champion. So Donathan Lacka not quite managing to keep pace with the front runners, but he does have a full battery. Does Don not quite using his battery power behind Don. Tabo T92 is looking to take a bite out of that position, and Caboza as well. Don't discount the McLaren driver as well. P7 for him as you ride on board, coming into the hairpin. That being, of course, turn 11. Oh, who is that? Looks like Don Lacka got a squirrely exit coming out of the hairpin, and Caboza is going to look to go wheel to wheel. He's on the inside of the Ferrari driver, is the McLaren driver, and he overtakes, and it's up to P6 for Caboza. Beautiful, beautiful racing and beautiful progress. Oh, he loses it a little bit, and they compromise himself out of Spoon, and Donathan Lacka gets that overtake done. So P6 is down to P7 again for the McLaren driver, who came unstuck at that point. And looks like Josh, aka Damnesia, may have gotten unstuck. He finds himself tumbling down the order here. And yeah, Caboza, a couple of mistakes costing him dearly. Let's get back to the battle for the race lead. Django was more than a second behind Rabico, finds himself within DRS as things currently stand, pulling back as Crash rightfully said, and these top two are now building quite a gap between themselves and the champion C-Clay, who has fallen to about 1.4 seconds behind and does not have that DRS advantage, of course, as things currently stand. Lap 4 of 27 in this also challenging circuit out here in Japan. Josh, aka Damnesia, has had to come into the pits early. Seemingly also has Zotao and Espuda. They may have had a moment off camera that we absolutely missed, and they're on a fresh set of hard and medium tires, respectively. So Zotao and Espuda at the back of the pack will be hoping for a safety car to bring them back into the reckoning. Bad Kobe could not make it through to Q3, but finds himself in the points as things currently stand. Solid start for the Aston Martin driver, hunting down Donathan Lacka and Caboza, who have each made a series of mistakes which cost them dearly earlier on in the race. Further down the pack, it looks like Loveness is also fighting for his life in his hunt for that P12 spot, currently held by the Alpine of Enleto. C-Clay and Django are teammates, but so are Django and Don. Django and Don like to work together. They practice a lot together as we watch Loveness going wide there, coming into the spoon curve, but he makes it out unscathed. Looking decent is Loveness in this fourth lap. And now the race has seemingly settled into a little bit of a rhythm, and the field has spread out a little bit as Loveness is hoping to be able to possibly effect an overtake, but no, and Neville gets a far cleaner exit out of that final sequence of corners. So Loveness is going to have his work cut out if he were to effect a possible overtake. C-Clay has fallen back by about 2.1 seconds behind Django, who is now half a second behind Don Radico. These two friends and fierce competitors are pretty much moving almost hand in hand here, as Caboza seemingly has made a mistake, seeing him tumble all the way down to P10 down in the midfield. So it's not looking good at all for the likes of a Caboza. Josh, aka Damnesia, in the pit lane again. I do wonder what kind of damage Josh may have taken, or if it was a wing change. Yes, it is for Josh, who is now going to have to fight his way from the back of the pack. And if you look at the track map, if he's not careful, he may yet find himself getting lapped here. Well, Josh, let's get back into this battle for the race lead. Don has broken out of Django's DRS. He is now 1.1 seconds. 1.2 seconds behind the race leader is Smirch Django, and his battery is interestingly down to about 32%. Look at that. Don Ravico, despite not having the advantage of DRS, racing in clean air, has been circumspect with his battery use. 73% worth of battery remaining, so he's looking absolutely composed, solid, and not under threat as things currently stand. He just needs to avoid mistakes at all costs, and we may yet be looking at a memorable debut race victory over here for Don Ravico. Lap 6 of 27, still a lot of racing to go. I would be remiss to be speaking of race wins so early in the game. Don Ravico, of course, is looking good, but he needs to keep it together between now and the end of the race. Now, let's get a sense of the gaps. Jonathan Lacka is 10 seconds behind the race leader. The champion, C-Clay, 3.5 seconds behind Ravico. And that gap between the top three and King Rapture, if we're not careful, may yet keep on extending. It has to be said that Rapture looking very, very good since the race start, gaining 6 positions for an absolutely sensational race as far as he is concerned thus far. Look at Seppo Temba gaining 9 places, started at the back of the pack and is now up to P9 in the colors of Red Bull today. He is an Aston Martin driver, remember, but he did join the lobby late. Don Ravico, another fastest lap for him. Seppo Temba is now looking to overtake Mandla, aka Romeo. So it's a absolutely beautiful race thus far from the Aston Martin driver. Look at Romeo. His red light is flashing. He's using all of his battery power just to get out of the clutches of Seppo Temba's DRS. But on the next straight, he will definitely be vulnerable, or perhaps Seppo Temba will bide his time up until the hairpin, which has been such a great overtaking spot, not only in this race, but in previous encounters as well. Looking absolutely solid, trying to heap the pressure on Mandla between now and the next straight. He's looking absolutely solid. Is Seppo Temba, the gap between these three, forming a small little DRS train over here, all the way from Mex through to Seppo Temba. But Mandla is huffing and puffing. He's holding his own. As Offense says, Ravico started Breakaway this season. We are mid-season, and he dominated every tier thus far. He is not here to mess around. And, well, judging by the 2-second lead that Don Ravico has, well, Offense, you are not wrong as things currently stand. Another fastest lap by the Don Ravico, who is now eked out almost a 2-second advantage between himself and Django. Ooh, who gets a little bit of a squeaky moment there. Mex and Mandla, but look at that. As Mandla thrashes, Seppo Temba will not need a second invitation. They go side by side. Seppo Temba has the inside line going into turn 1. It is a flat-out wheel-to-wheel racing. Seppo Temba gets the overtake done into turn 1. And, of course, turn 2 just rushes at you oh so quickly. Seppo Temba will now hunt down Mex as these laps keep on rolling on along. Seppo Temba, iconic drive from the back of the pack. 7 laps in, has gained 10 places since the start of this race. Beautiful stuff by Seppo Temba. Tabo T92 now hunting down His Royal Highness the King Rapture. Grimjaw, when are you joining Breakaway? Asked Debo Croc in the comment section. Another yellow flag now in Sector 1. I do wonder who that is for. I did not get a clear sense of that. Don Ravico still in the lead by a factor of about 2 seconds. We're watching Tabo T92 in P5, hoping to make that a P4 before too long. It's gonna have to be an absolutely inch-perfect race as far as he's concerned between now and the end of proceedings. Battles all over the pack. All over the track, rather. What is C-Clay's battery? I wonder. The answer is 73%. Another one who's just playing the long game, looking just to stay in touch as much as he can, and possibly go full-on attack mode once the pit window comes into effect. The medium tire runners have yet, of course, to come into the pit. It's a 27-lap race. Here comes the champ, says Charlie 3 Stacks, aka Charlie 3000, and already it looks like they're lapping Tapiso. Tapiso has already been lapped in lap 9 of 27, so things are looking very, very grim for the back markers. Tapiso will not be happy about that at all. He will not be happy about that at all. Tabo T92 has now gone up to P4. What a beautiful recovery it's been for him. He's just overtaken Donathan Laka, and Tabo now hunting down the champion. Seppo Temba on his epic fight back has overtaken the slow-moving Mex, who may have had a huge issue and has been tumbling down the order here. Django might be collateral, says Offense. I don't know how Merc are going to do this. I don't know how Merc are going to find their way into a possible race-winning scenario here. Mex, Caboza, P9 and 10 respectively. In races past, these two were comfortably among the top runners, comfortably in the reckoning for consistent podium finishes. But of course, with the changing breakaway landscape, it gets harder and harder. And right now, with a couple of mistakes in this race, they now have to fight tooth and nail to get close to Mandla, aka Romeo. Ooh, Caboza breaks later than his teammate and the Alfa Romeo ahead of him, and may yet get a proper run going onto this main straight, but does not do so going into turn 1. So Mandla manages to hang on. Under duress is Mandla, still flashing. This is Mex, the McLaren driver, who has 32%, as Josh has crashed out of this race. Josh, coming out of the hairpin, has lost his Alfa Romeo, bringing out the first safety car of the day. Don Ravico has just crushed. That is Josh's car, which has completely lost his front left wheel. And Ban Kobe at the back of the pack gets a drive-through penalty for speeding under the safety car. Bad to worse for Ban Kobe. Josh, aka Damnesia, crashes out, bringing out the safety car. It's been a nightmare season for Josh. This is his 4th DNF of the season. Josh having a howler of a season. 4 DNFs. 4 DNFs. Don Ravico, what will you do in lap 10 of 27? Smirch Django, of course, will now be thanking his lucky stars, as will Seekley. Under safety car, the pack will be bunched up, and that gap which was really starting to extend as far as that gap between P1 and 3 is concerned. Well, they're all going to get bunched up again, and the top two... Oh no, Don Radical, rookie error! 5-second penalty for speeding in the pit lane! What is going on, Don Radical? Oh man, oh man, oh man. Well, that pretty much is great news for this man, Django, who now has a possible advantage here in his battle versus Don Radical, who will be kicking himself. And we'll definitely be hoping for no more safety cars between now and the end of this session. Inanti says Bankobi is now fighting for P13 at the back of the pack. After that session of pits, interestingly, Seaclay, who started on the hard tires, has opted to come into the pits early. So it was a double stack by Mercedes, surprisingly. And it looks like the only drivers that have opted to stay out are the guys in the top three. That being Don, Rapture, and Tsepo Temba. So Seaclay rolling the dice here and pitting early. The 86er says, well, the safety car has kind of screwed with Seaclay's prospects here, and the double stack also messed up Seaclay. However, this is a two-stop race, reckons Man Ray in the comments. Mandla is also fresh out of the pits. He's now in P9 after that series of pit stops. Kaboza is now 10th. Neville is 11th. Loveness, P12. Another pacey driver who is going to find those points finishes potentially even harder to come by, considering how stacked this field is. And Gawako, aka D-Wax, says, well, P13, solid drivers in Gawako, always in seasons past and this season's, manages to keep his nose clean, manages to finish in the points. He's finished in the points, has Ngawako, every race he started. P7 in Baku, he finished P6 in Australia, and he matched that result in Monza. He did not race in France, and he finished P7 in Austria, and managed only a 9th place finish last time out in Singapore. So currently 13th, and with such a full grid and a stacked top tier field, he's going to have his work cut out, but he is a solid driver, keeps his nose out of trouble. He hardly racks up unnecessary time penalties and hardly racks up any other types of penalties as well. So it's not out of bounds, and he is a confident driver, is D-Wax. He could yet find himself in the points, depending on how the rest of this race goes. Van Kobe back in the pits. What's going on with Van Kobe? Zotal had also already pitted. I do wonder if we're going to watch Van Kobe possibly get a wing change here. Well, it's onto the mediums. There's no wing change. Perhaps he just feels, I may as well roll the dice because Zotal was so far behind. Zotal now up to P14, another driver who's now going to have a perfect race between now and the end. It's been a mixed bag for Zotal. His best finish being that podium, P3 in Australia. Otherwise, he's racked up a P8 in Baku. He crashed out in Monza. He finished out of the points in France, and he finished 9th in the feature race in Austria, and crossed the line in 8th place in Singapore. So, mixed bag for Zotal. You're going to have to watch carefully to see how he will fare. Now, after this initial safety car, Donovan Laga, who opted to start on those hards, finds himself in P1. King Rapture P2, Tsepo Temba P3. Just so you get a sense of what a race it's been for Tsepo Temba thus far. He's going to hope for a dash of good luck. He's gained 15 places since the start of this race. He was all the way at the back of the pack, so yeah, what a day for him. But of course, he still needs to pit towards the end of proceedings here. Now, the pack is pretty much bunched up, as you can see on the track map on your bottom right of your screen. Django's going to haul it. He's got to haul it, says Charlie 3 Stacks, Charlie 3000. Grimjaw reckons that Seaclay is in a pretty good spot here. Despite that double stack, the champion currently P8, medium tires. It's lap 12. How much do you reckon? Let me know in the comment section. How much do you reckon the medium tire runners are going to be struggling towards the end here, if at all. Let me know in the comment section. So Mex and the top 3 runners are the only ones who have yet to come into the pits. Traffic is going to make this very, very interesting. Ooh, what was going on with Mex? Almost having a moment with the wall there. I gotta go easy there, Mex. I hope he didn't take any damage. Trying to warm up his tires, weaving to the left and to the right. Oh man, another revolution around the safety car? Yes, it seems so. No one else is coming back into the pits. Tapiso, the ghost of Tapiso, had already been lapped. Ban Kobe at the back of the pack, P16, fresh mediums for him. Hopefully this will be the last lap that we have under safety car conditions in this oh so iconic racetrack. Not the easiest of racetracks. It's one that drivers really do enjoy, but it does have its fair share of challenges for drivers. 5.8 kilometers long. That's the track length. A full race distance around here is about 307 kilometers, and yeah. It's quite an old circuit, old school circuit. Was built back in 1962. Man, oh man, oh man. It only joined the F1 calendar back in 1987. A race that was synonymous with Nigel Mansell crashing out in qualifying, and that ruled him out of the race, and that gifted that year's championship to Nelson Piquet. I suppose it's one of these beautiful tracks to go and watch in person. Absolutely delivers as far as challenging the drivers. And yeah, definitely some huge moments and some iconic moments over the years. Last year, as we mentioned earlier, this is the site of the confirmation of Verstappen's second coronation. Well, Charlie 3 Stacks, I have a stack of notes here. Not only about the drivers, but also about the track. Well, Race Control says the safety car is coming in at the end of this lap. At the end of lap number 13, the driver is now weaving left and right, trying to get a semblance of temperature into those tires. Don Ravico with that costly mistake into the pit lane. Crash asking, are you ready for another season of max dominance? Man Ray says, now with the laps of the safety car, there won't be any tire changes necessary. The mediums are going to suffer towards the end, reckons Man Ray. Now, Donathan Laka will lead us coming out of the final sequences of corners, and he sends it. Gains a 7/10 advantage coming through onto the main straight. Where is the likes of Don Ravico? Oh, he's fallen behind by about 1.1 seconds behind Teppo Temba. So not such a tasty start for the would-be challenging Don Ravico. Currently P4. What about Cicle in his fight-back attempt? Definitely one to watch very, very closely. Smirch Django struggling to warm up those hard compound tires. He's about 1.2 seconds behind. Django Cicle is on the brink. He is right on the tail of that Red Bull of Tabo T92. Looking to absolutely send it through the Degna curves. Brakes much braver on the brakes is the champion Cicle, hunting down Tabo T92. He's about 3/10 behind the Red Bull. Is Cicle make that almost 2/10 into the hairpin? He will be absolutely pushing, applying all the pressure, draining that battery, using it all up. Perhaps he's going to go into the attack, into spoon curve. Will Cicle go for it? No, eases up onto the throttle. If Tabo T92 goes wide here, Cicle will absolutely dive for a potential race lead here. Meanwhile, further ahead, through 130R already, the battle for the race lead is hotting up between the King Rapture and Donathan Laka. Into the final chicane they come. These drivers who opted to stay out on their older set of hard compound tires are still absolutely sending it. Tabo T92 has been almost overtaken by Seekley. King Rapture goes on the inside of Donovan Lackett into turn 1. King Rapture, will he have the lead? Yes, he will, is the answer. An emphatic move, and King Rapture is now in control of proceedings out here in Japan. Donovan Lackett may yet fight back, but time will tell as far as that battle is concerned. Seppo Temba still running P3. No stops, no penalties. Don Radical will have to contend with that 5-second penalty, which may yet cost him a place in the podium as far as his prospects are concerned. And no matter what happens between now and then, he will come to rue that mistake of speeding into the pit lane. Django is not quite on Radical's neck, 1.3 seconds behind as things currently stand. And Seekley's fight versus Tabo T92 not going as planned. He hasn't got that overtake done as yet in lap 15 of 27. And the gap between these guys and the race leader is something interesting to keep a hold of, to keep in touch with, and pay close attention to. Seekley already is about 6.6 seconds behind the leaders of this race. Crash rolling the dice, hedging his bets on Django to win this race, considering, of course, penalties and the position of some of these competitors. I hope King Rapture does not spin. It could yet be an interesting race towards the end. So says Fensei. Oh, Seekley heavy on the curves as stewards enable DRS on this lap. Seekley is there and thereabouts. Seekley is going to go for it. Seekley is on the inside, side by side, and it's a smooth, emphatic overtake before turn 1 for the 3-time champion. Tabo T92 on those hard compound tires is just going to look to stay in touch here and hope that Seekley loses performance from those mediums as this race keeps on ticking on towards its inevitable conclusion. Now, back to the battle in the midfield. Tabo T92 not having such a great time out here. He is about less than half a second ahead of Kabosa, who is hoping to effect an overtake of his own here before we get too ahead of ourselves. Let's stay on board with this and see what he can do. Kabosa hunting down the Red Bull. Mired in a midfield battle in lap 16. Charlie 3 Stacks, Charlie 3000 says the champ has got something to say. Absolutely. Right now, the champ is hunting down his teammate, and Kabosa himself is also ahead of his teammate, Mex, who is behind by about almost 3 seconds as things currently stand. Into 130R comes the McLaren, screaming down towards that final Casio chicane. And he's not quite close enough to effect an overtake. Down in P13, Zotal is hunting down Ingawako, aka D-Wax. Seekley gets the fastest lap, 133.5, while Don Radical has finally overtaken Tabo Temba, who's running much older tires. Don Radical now up to P3, further ahead on this grid. Zotal hunting down Ingawako, both on 6-lap-old tires, but Zotal is on the quicker compound as things currently stand. Now, Ingawako, aka D-Wax, will have the advantage towards the end, considering his tires degrade slower. S. Buddha has crashed out, bringing out the second safety car. S. Buddha has lost his car in Sector 1. I believe it is on the exit of Turn 2. S. Buddha, the Alpha Tauri driver, has crashed out, bringing out the second safety car of the day. King Rapture, Don Laka, will be grateful for this. Now, they had yet to pit, as, of course, was Seppo Temba. So this second safety car says, Crash, these top 2 drivers, these front 2, are absolutely lucky. S. Buddha crashing out, which is going to pile the pressure on the Alpha Tauri driver. S. Buddha also matching Josh with 4 DNFs this season. Man, oh man, oh man. He crashed out in Singapore, did S. Buddha. He crashed out in France, and he crashed out in Australia. 4th DNF as the top two drivers inevitably come into the pits, as does Teppo Temba, who had yet, of course, to pit. And that means Don Rabico is back in command of this race, back in the lead of proceedings. It is mediums, a fresh set for Don at a very good time in this race. And King Rapture, fresh set as well. He comes out P5. Will Ingawako overtake? No, it's P6. Yes. Ingawako now up to P7. What a day for the AlphaTauri driver and AlphaTauri's only hope. King Rapture, fresh mediums, P6. It's a decent day. And that late pit stop means Suzuka, who was there and thereabouts, is now down to P9. But we'll have that fresher set compared to the likes of Loveness and Zotail, of course. So still a lot to play for, as the pack had definitely kind of split up between these two safety cars. Let's go King Rapture, says Crash. Maripang, aka King Rapture, looking very, very comfortable in the top tier of Breakaway. Liddy says these season's relegations are going to be very, very sad considering the talent and the pace in the top tier thus far. Yeah, it's going to be so difficult. Not only relegations, Liddy, I think the playoffs are going to be so tasty. I can't wait for the playoffs. The playoffs. Oh man, you've got the likes of definitely Duke in Tier 2, who are really fighting to come back. The 86er is fighting to stake his claim to come back. Oh man, it's going to be absolutely beautiful. King Rapture now up to P6. Let's get a run of proceedings, or a look at how things look as things currently stand. Don Rabico leads, has a 5-second time penalty, don't you forget. P1. Smirch Django currently second from Seaclay in P3. It's a Mercedes 2-3, but, well, if they stay close to Rabico, which is pretty much likely, it's a potential Mercedes 1-2 again this season. Tabo T92 currently running P4. Ingawako P5. Rapture currently running 6th. Zotail P7. He found himself out of the points before the safety car, so Zotail will be happy with this. But his tires are aging, and he'll be thankful that we're going to get a couple of laps without pushing those tires to the limit, courtesy of the safety car. So he may be fine as far as finishing the points are concerned, but it's not going to be easy. P7 currently for the Alpine driver. Loveness currently 8th. Donathan Laka 9th. Teppo Temba, what a drive for him. Fresh tires, but P10. Ahead of Caboza, who also opted to come into the pits for a fresh set of tires. Most of the drivers towards the bottom here, rolling the dice. And I would tell you the biggest roll of the dice has been from this man, who's really doing something completely off script, because Bankobi has opted for a soft set of compound tires. Man, oh man, oh man. Soft compound tires for him. He's got to catch up to the back of the pack. He's about 26 seconds behind. Well, expect him to have a say on those back markers in those initial laps, but this track is not kind on the soft tires. If this is to be the final lap under safety car, Bankobi may yet struggle towards the end of proceedings here. And Charlie 3 Stacks, Charlie 3000, enjoying quote-unquote Bankobi's downfall in Tier 1. Crash reckons after 3 laps, these soft tires, will be done for. Huge roll of the dice from Bankobi. Charlie 3 Stacks says he's only going to be having a say against the ghost of Tapiso. Charlie 3 Stacks, Charlie 3000, enjoying this. He's having the time of his life as Charlie. Hopefully Race Control gives the word that we're going to be back back racing, I would love to see nothing more than that. Yep, race control has given the word. Safety car is in at the end of this lap. Seaplay versus Django versus Don Ravico, who absolutely punches it. But Django was not to be caught napping. Seaplay is on the attack on his teammate as well. Just a couple of tenths, a handful of tenths between these top runners. A clean entry and exit 2 turns 1 and 2. Seaplay almost makes contact with his teammates. Tabo T92 hunting down the Mercedes pair as well. Ingawako, aka D-Wax, looking to keep it inch perfect. He's being hunted down by the King Rapture. Marapang, His Royal Highness, on those fresh set of medium compound tires. Watch out for Ingawako. He's got the freshest tire of compound among these guys who would be fighting for the potential race lead around here. King Rapture is also being chased down by none other than Zotal as things currently stand. It's a beautiful restart over here as the top runners have yet to change positions. Here we are now on board King Rapture. Will he go for it on the inside into the hairpin? Oh, onto the grass went King Rapture, and he could not get that overtake done. Or does he? He's on the inside. It's King Rapture. Wheel to wheel with Ingawako, aka D-Wax. But D-Wax gets a clear exit down towards the hill, and D-Wax will be absolutely using up as much of his battery as he possibly can. He is down towards the spoon curve. Here they come now. King Rapture almost touching the rear wing, or the rear wheels of that Red Bull, and he's now side by side, but tries he might. King Rapture gets the overtake done. He's now up to P5. Beautiful overtake, beautiful racing by the King Rapture, who was on a singular mission, and that is to eke out all those positions from those drivers on the older compound, on the older tires. Meanwhile, Seakley versus his teammate versus Don Ravico is, of course, the huge battle to be watching on board with the 3-time champion. We go now as lap 20 becomes 21 of 27 total laps out here in Japan. Don Ravico already clean ahead, 1.3 second advantage he has ahead of Smirt's Django. And if there's no further safety cars here, it's going to have to be a Hall of Fame drive for Don Ravico to be able to secure his podium spot between now and the end of proceedings. But his performance through the S is a sensational 1.2 second advantage that Ravico holds between that P1 and P2 spot. Django manages to bridge that gap ever so slightly before it gets reestablished back at that margin. Loveness is hunting down Zotal, who is trying to keep in touch with Ingawako, aka D-Wax. It's a beautiful DRS train here that we have in the midfield, all the way from Zotal all the way down to Mex. It's a huge train as they follow each other, trying to get a little bit of an advantage, and Loveness is huffing and puffing, using up of his battery. He's got just over half of his battery power remaining as Enebo is slipping and sliding, a mistake costing him in Sector 2. So Enebo, the LP driver, slipping and sliding. He's now out of the reckoning for the points as things currently stand. 6 laps of racing still remaining. Django is absolutely unchanged, says Charlie 3 Stacks, aka Charlie 3000, as we have a beautiful battle, beautiful series of battles all through the grid here. And we're currently on board with none other than Seppo Temba, who's looking to keep Kaposa at bay. Django, quickest man on track, 33.229 is the benchmark as far as those timing sheets are concerned. This is the vantage point from the perspective of Seppo Temba, who has been on a recovery mission, having started at the back of the pack at the beginning of proceedings here today. But coming into turn 1, he was not close enough to affect that overtake. Donovan Laka, Ravico's teammate, struggling to stay within the reckoning for the points finishes as things currently stand. Who fell? King Rapture had a huge mistake, huge spin perhaps. He's not down to P10. He was in the reckoning for a podium spot, but now needs a miracle if he's going to get that done. Ban Kobe on those soft compound tires did not do enough to be able to be fighting for those points positions as things stand. Crash reckoned that after 3 laps, his soft tires would fall off the cliff. Well, he's going to be one to watch towards the end of proceedings here. He is being hunted down by Romeo, aka Mandla, with 5 laps of racing to go. Mandla holds a title line into the hairpin, and he's hunting down that Aston Martin. Back now to the battle for the race lead. Ravico versus Django versus Seakley. Don Ravico definitely leading at the front, but that time penalty going to cost him dearly towards the end of proceedings here. Seakley is going about 3/100ths of a second quicker than his previous best time at the end of that Sector 2 split. Ooh, Django went too heavy onto that chicane, meaning Seakley was almost into those rear wheels as C-Clay using as much of his battery as possible. C-Clay, the quickest man on track. C-Clay on the verge of a potential overtake on his teammate here. He knows he's got to get it done now. He goes on the outside. He thought about it, did C-Clay, but he was not close enough to get that move done. Django hangs on by the skin of his teeth as things currently stand, and C-Clay is holding on. Kapoza racks up a time penalty for speeding into the pit lane. Perhaps Kapoza took some wing damage, which is why he's coming to the pits so late into the day. We have only a couple, just 4 more laps of racing here to go in Japan. It's been a beautiful, beautiful race. There's been another yellow flag brought out. I wonder for who, because the safety car has come out again. Italian job by Mercedes. Who's the safety car for this time? Tabo T92, wing is intact. And Kawako D-Wax, his wing is intact. I can only assume it's not been a full DNF. Perhaps someone's lost massive amounts of debris. Well, it looks like this man, King Rapture, lost a wing, but that might have been the incident that saw him spin out earlier. Mex, his wing looks to be intact, as does Teppo Temba and Romeo. Ban Kobe as well. Loveness, he may yet be the culprit. Yeah, his wing is completely gone. And Lebo has DNF'd, retired from the session altogether. And Lebo retires in the pits, perhaps seeing that he may yet not have...
saying we don't have the capacity.
You don't got the facilities, big man. Perhaps Lebo just thinking, it's futile to fight for a points finish here. Let's see what the top runners might yet do. There's no need to pit, really. I suppose if Rabico was feeling extra risky, he could serve his time penalty, but then he'd fall way too far behind the pack. So Rabico will just be fighting to stay within the reckoning. King Rapture rolls the dice, just finally going to come into the pits for that wing change, as will Loveness, of course. And, well, they're going to be fighting their way from the back of the pack in the final couple of laps. And with the soft compound of tire, the quickest compound of tire, Rapture is also going to be thinking about a possible fastest lap here before the end of proceedings. Satellite Mazanzi says Neville was saving his engine. It's a long season, remember. This is only lap race number 8. This is effectively the midpoint of the season. It's a 16 race championship in Breakaway. After this, we go to Spa-Francorchamps in Belgium, as we move into the second half of the season from Tuesday onwards. Kaboza currently P13, Loveness 14th at the back of the pack. Kaboza and Rabico 5-second time penalties for speeding into the pit lane. So those are the regrets that they hold at this point. But C-Clay, 13 lap old medium tires. We've had a couple of safety cars, so they haven't necessarily been pushing fully for 13 laps. So he may yet have a decent amount of life left in these tires towards that final run to end proceedings here. Hopefully we'll have two proper laps of racing, because it looks like we may yet have one more lap under the safety car. So yeah, if we do get 2 laps of racing, of course that means no DRS. So that battle between Django, C-Clay, and Tabo T92 is going to be a battle of raw pace without the assistance of DRS. Watch out for Tabo T92. He is no slouch as far as being... as far as absolutely going for it is concerned. Tabo T92, one that I look forward to watching very, very closely. Ngawako, aka D-Wax. We've already spoken about his prospects. It's a very good day for Ngawako, it must be said. Another podium, another points finish. So by some margin, one of the most consistent drivers. Every race he has started, he has managed to finish within the points. Regardless of how stacked the top tier keeps on getting, he manages to string those results together. Now, we're into the final sequences of laps. I want to hear who your driver of the day is. Who's your driver of the day? Seppo Temba, 9 places gained. Ngawako D-Wax, 6 places gained. Firmly within a very, very good points finish if things conclude the way that they currently are. So looking very, very solid for him. But of course, we've seen some beautiful racing at the front of the pack as well. This man Zotal looking good in P6, despite having come in for 2 stops. Looking very, very solid. Seppo Temba, another driver who's been unfortunate not to be able to start on time for a lot of races. And despite a solid showing today, he's also had 3 DNFs at Seppo Temba. His best result of the season was P4 Seppo Temba. As we go back to the battle for the race lead, Seathley really having to watch his teammates as looks like Django was holding off Seathley there. It looks like Django, the way he was holding Seathley off, it looked like Django was Ravico's teammate. But Seathley sends it on the outside into turn 1. Will they make contact? No, Seathley had to ease off on the brakes there. And Django holds on to that P2 spot, but Ravico is gone. 1.8 seconds on the race restart. And we will have just a couple of laps racing between now and the end of proceedings here. What can Seathley do? And Django's just going to have to keep things clean and avoid whatever mistakes he possibly can. Django, a driver who is pacey, but we have seen is prone to the occasional unforced error. This time has not been the case, of course. He's managed to keep things absolutely clean as far as mistakes are concerned. Right now, he's fighting for his life against his teammate as some of the drivers at the back of the pack, Loveness, seems to have had an issue bringing out the yellow flag in Sector 2, but the race leaders will pay no mind to that. If Don Ravico keeps this up, then that 2.2 second gap may yet stretch even further, and I do wonder, depending on how hard the P2, 3, and 4 drivers are, I do wonder if Don Ravico, by some miracle, can hang on to an unlikely podium finish, considering that time penalty. Loveness crashes out. He retires from this session. Perhaps he just retires his car as it was still moving. Perhaps Loveness just thinking, well, there's little to fight for at this point. Tabo T92 is on the hunt versus the top 3, who are absolutely sending it with no regard for limits. Tabo T92 is struggling to stay in touch here. He's lost ground. He's now 0.8 of a second behind, as it looks like Mex behind is really struggling to stay in touch. He's tumbled down a couple of places as the McLaren driver. Ngawako, aka D-Wax, keeping it steady, holding firm, holding strong. King Rapture in his fight back becomes one of the latest drivers to crash out. King Rapture was having a decent day, but a couple of mistakes and now a DNF, costing him precious points. He is out, but it's the final lap of the race. Zotal holding firm to the coattails of Ngawako, aka D-Wax, who was fallen behind the top 4 by a factor of about 2.8 seconds. Now, this, of course, is the battle that we're going to be watching very, very closely between now and the checkered flag. It's the Mercedes pair trying to catch up to Don Ravico, who still has to contend with that time penalty, you will remember. And let's see what Seathley can do. A couple of seasons ago, Seathley was overtaken at this corner mercilessly by Zotal, but this time he's not close enough, seemingly, to get that move done. Don Ravico will cross the line on debut in the first spot, but it's Smirts Django will claim the race win from Seatley to make it a Mercedes 1-2 when Don Rabico, despite the time penalty, gains a debut podium in the top-tier Breakaway League racing. Tabo T92 has a beautiful race to come home in P4, and Gawako, what a day for him, P5, and Zotal comes home in P6. Points finish for Don Laka in P7. Seppo Temba does well to finish P8, Max P9, and Caboza will be the last of the points finishers. Man, oh man, oh man, what a rush, what a race towards the end of proceedings here. Seppo Temba is the game's driver of the day. The question is he yours? I want to hear your thoughts on that. That fastest lap on hard, says Crash in the comment section. Django win as he predicted. Grimshaw says Don pushed that last lap. He drove it like he stole it. Big race by Don Rabico. Don Rabico is already in the comment section, says, I told you that podiums are fully booked until the end of the season. Oh my gosh. The confidence. The confidence by Don Rabico. Well, but he can't back it up, of course. He says, the podiums are mine, the podiums are ours. Between now and the end of the season, Rabico is way too real, says Wendell Chezzy. Is Don your driver of the day? Is it Seppo Temba? Is it Seekler? Is it Django? Let me know. Crash says Django's racing IQ is absolutely sensational and phenomenal. Man, oh man, oh man, what an absolutely stunning race we have had. Charlie 3 Stacks, Charlie 3000 says Tier 1 is getting called out like this. It is, I can barely believe the quality that we are subjected to, that we are witnessing in the top tier. One of the first drivers to join me in the commentary box is none other than the champion whose P2 finished today. Surely make sure that he is still in firm command of the championship at the top of the standings. Congratulations, sir. Take us through that and your absolutely mind-blowing qualifying session. Just take us through your confidence levels going into quali and the race overall, Seatley.
Ty, that safety car, bro. That safety car. Everything just went south after that. I was keeping up with them pretty well with those hards.
Yeah.
I had more pace. There was some strat calls between Ferrari and Mercedes, I saw. But hey, okay, I see. Okay, it was an interesting race. And like I said, I tried overtaking, but as soon as I get close, it was in front of me as the RS all of a sudden. But interesting. A lot of controversial things, but
take us through that controversy there from your perspective before we move on to Don Rabico there, because from what it was looking like at the race restart, it almost looked like you were getting slowed down there.
Yeah, we were, and kind of disappointed. Of course, from Team Mercedes, not Team Mercedes and Ferrari. But I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how it goes in the future.
We will see Don Rabico on debut for the Tifosi. You lit it up in qualifying, weren't quite close enough to get that move done. You were P2. Just take us through that race. Congratulations. Debut podium.
A bit disappointing with that pit lane rookie mistake. But what can we do? We live and learn. But and those safety cars were a bit annoying. Guys were holding up the safety car for 3 laps. I don't know why they were doing that on purpose. Very, very suspicious behavior there, guys. Suspicious behavior. But but the race was good. No, the pace was good. I was happy with my pace. The strategies were perfect. They played out perfectly. But it's a good debut. So I'm glad. Like I said, I posted a message in Discord today. I said the podiums are finished, guys. Yeah, no more podiums. It's finished now. It's finished now.
Django's here to take all the Tier 1 drivers' lunch. He says the top three, as you saw today, is pretty much what the podiums are going to look like. Django, there's allegations in the pit lane and across the grandstands of Breakaway that you and Smirts Django are teammates, and you're kind of playing into each other's hands here. What's going on?
Mic check, Tyson.
Okay, Ramico, I can't hear him there. Okay, Django, take us through that. Congratulations, it's another race win in the top tier. Just take us through how that might have felt, considering the pressure of course, the likes of Don coming in and Cicle being on the mission that he's on. Just take us through your quali and your race, and then we'll get on to the spicy questions that I still have for both of you.
That was an interesting race. On my last run on Q3, I couldn't warm my tires properly because I think the McLarens were on an out lap or something like that, or on their fast lap, so I had to go into the gravel. So my tires were super cold. That's why I think the time was a bit too far, but no complaints, and managed to pass in the. I knew I had to pass in the start. Unfortunately, Don passed Cicle as well, so I thought maybe I'm gonna pass Don, and it's gonna be Mercedes 1 and 2. So up until the safety cars were ruining everything, man, But yeah, let's get into. I've been reading the comments here and I'm seeing weird things, but let's get into it, man.
Yeah, well, you and Don Ravico, were you tag teaming for Ravico to get onto the podium? It looked like a slow restart after the final safety car from you, which held up Cicle, who was of course battling both you and Don for the race win. What was going on there?
I think also, and I can provide like footage. It happened in Singapore as well. When the safety car goes in, I'm unable to go on the throttle for some reason, right? And it happened in Singapore. I was trying to complain to it with my engineer, who was context, but I was not being able to go into throttle. So that happened twice actually in this race, where I couldn't, because the safety car went in super late twice, and I couldn't go into throttle for some weird reason. And so why would I try to help a Ferrari when the Mercedes is behind us, even when he has like 5 seconds penalty? I have no business trying to help Don. He's chapping everybody, including myself. So I have no business trying to help this man who's chapping everybody in the cockpit. So we practiced together, yes, but everybody wants to win, and Mercedes is chasing this title.
Chasing this title.
Cicle, it's on a race, I say, it's on a race. I'm a futa kukwazi unyekhala ngoputsa. Cicle, what do you say today?
Still a lot of races ahead. That's all I can say.
A lot of races ahead, yeah.
Still a lot of races to go, and I have nothing to fight for. So I'll just be fighting for podiums. Mr. Podium, you can call me from now on.
Yeah, the confidence level, but at least he's backing it up on track, folks.
But not as for the safety car went in right by the pit. It said safety car in. Even I was stuck and I couldn't go anywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, the safety car twice went in late, so we couldn't do anything. I don't know why it was glitching like that.
That was definitely unfortunate there. I just want to hear, Don, the final question to you. The next track is Belgium. I want to hear your comfort levels around that track, and just your confidence levels around Belgium.
As long as it doesn't rain, we're good to go.
All right. So is rain is rain something that you specifically struggle with on this game?
No, I don't really struggle with rain, but Belgium is quite difficult in Eau Rouge with rain. It can be quite tricky.
I see what you mean. Django, confidence levels, it's Belgium up next. You and Cicle are on a string of 1-2s as teammates. It's beautiful to watch. How do you feel specifically around that upcoming track?
It's gonna be interesting because I think everybody is a bit fast in Belgium, so it's all gonna go down to setups, and we know people run 0-0 in Belgium, so it's gonna be crazy. But I'm looking forward to it.
Clay, it's been a beautiful series of 1-2s for you. I think your quote-unquote worst finish of the season was a P3 in the feature race in Austria. Your thoughts on Belgium and how you feel, particularly around that track.
I feel good. I'll come very prepared. I won't underestimate anyone, and yeah, it's gonna be a crazy race.
I cannot wait. Absolutely looking forward to it. Gentlemen, thank you so much for that sensational race. We will be seeing you on Tuesday in Belgium. And don't forget, Tier 1 and Tier 3 race on Monday. The first race starting at 8 p.m. Central African time. That will be on Monday. And then these guys in the top tier will be on Tuesday. Inati is asking in the comment section just before we go, rivalry at Mercedes, I wonder. Sita says, nah, Ferrari is just getting a little bit of a nudge. Grimjaw reckons that Don Rabico flies in Belgium. And Sanale says, chemistry at Mercedes. It's like putting a South African player in an English squad on FIFA Ultimate Team. Bangani says, ask them who's the number one driver at Mercedes. Yes, who's the number one driver at Mercedes? I should ask you guys that. Don Seatley, is there a number one driver?
No, we're just racing. I don't think it matters who's number one or number two. It's just racing, fighting for the championship. And yeah, that's it.
Fighting for the championship, and it's beautiful to watch. And Seatley being such a fierce competitor, he always brings it. Absolutely. Gentlemen, thank you very much to everyone in the comments. It's been a beautifully, beautiful race. As Grimjaw says, that was a very politically, a diplomatic answer by Seatley. Thank you, everybody. Gentlemen, congratulations. Seatley, congratulations. Don, we will see you in Belgium on Tuesday next week. Everyone in the comments, we thank you so much. Catch us back here for more Breakaway League racing at the start of next week. Thank you and good night.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers.